Please welcome Supervisor-elect Lindsay Horvath.
The County of Los Angeles recognizes that we occupy land originally and still inhabited and cared for by the Tongva, Tataviam, Serrano, Quiche, and Chumash peoples. We honor and pay respect to their elders and descendants, past, present, and emerging, as they continue their stewardship of these lands and waters. We acknowledge that settler colonization resulted in land seizure, disease, subjugation, slavery, relocation, broken promises, genocide, and multi-generational trauma. This acknowledgement demonstrates our responsibility and commitment to truth, healing, and reconciliation, and to elevating the stories, culture, and community original inhabitants of Los Angeles County. We are grateful to have the opportunity to live and work on these ancestral lands. We are dedicated to growing and sustaining relationships with Native peoples and local tribal governments, including, in no particular order, the Fernandino Tataviam Band of Mission Indians, Gabrielino Tongva Indians of California Tribal Council, Gabrieleno Tongva San Gabriel Band of Mission Indians, Gabrieleno Band of Mission Indians, Quiche Nation, San Manuel Band of Mission Indians, and the San Fernando Band of Mission Indians. To learn more about the First Peoples of Los Angeles County, please visit the Los Angeles City County Native American Indian Commission website at www.linaic.lacounty.gov.
Good morning. Welcome to the Kenneth Hahn Hall of Administration for the swearing-in of Supervisor-elect Lindsay Horvath. Take this moment to please silence your phones and locate the exits nearest to you. Please welcome Los Angeles Mayor Eric Garcetti.
I couldn't hear over your enthusiasm. Make some noise for Lindsay Horvath. Come on, bring the love. Well, good afternoon, Los Angeles, and what a beautiful day this is. After the rains have blessed our LA, after the skies have opened up and the sunshine makes the city glisten everywhere that you feel, this is a day for us to take that physical beauty and to feel the political, ethical, human beauty of this moment as we elevate our dear friend, truly an angel in this county of angels, Lindsay Horvath, to be your next supervisor. I grew up as a county boy. I don't know, I found a job in the city for a few years, for about 21 years. But my father, who worked his entire career in this county, showed me the power of the county of Los Angeles, the most powerful, the largest county in America, to not only influence the lives of 10 million people, but what it can do to influence this country and this world. Lindsay Horvath is not only a friend. Lindsay Horvath is not only an incredible mujer. She is not only somebody who has fought battles when they're unpopular, when she gets yelled at, which I hear happens sometimes in elected life, when people look to somebody who can organize, who can motivate, who can catalyze, and who can see a point on the horizon that few of us can see. She has been ready for this job since day one. And she's also somebody who is about as loyal a person as you'll meet. I can say, I know I'm speaking for everybody in this room who has a story about her loyalty and her humanity. Picking up the phone, not just in moments of celebration, but in the toughest moments, to check in, to see how you are and who you are. Who sees you as a person and as a representative of 2 million people now. I hope that doesn't scare you too much, Lindsay. 2 million people, larger than the mayor of every city in America but 3. She will be able to continue to radiate seeing this city one person at a time. It was my honor in 2015 to swear her in as mayor of the city of West Hollywood. And shortly thereafter, we were at the White House. And I remember President Obama looking out at a sea of mayors. And then he looked and he saw Lindsay Horvath. He said, "You're a mayor?" She was so young. It wasn't his idea, whatever his idea of mayor was. And of all of the mayors, he saw something just emanating from her. Because that's who Lindsay Horvath is. Whether it's the extension of a Crenshaw line to the north that nobody could see, and now that she fights for, whether it was recognizing long before these dark days, the fights we would have to do to protect women's health care and our basic human rights, or whether it's the brilliance she will bring with a number of co-authors. And I want to thank each one of these all female board of supervisors, including outgoing supervisor and a star if there ever were stars. Somebody said, you're now the smartest person in the room, Eric, because Sheila's no longer on Metro. I disagreed about the analysis, but certainly one of the smartest people you'll ever meet. And she's really modeling yet again. She's always great at what she does. She's modeling retirement so well. Sheila Kuehl, so give it up for Sheila as well. I will end on this because this is a week of goodbyes for me, and I've been very contemplative about what service means. And Sheila has said it so well, the idea that we get paid every single day to try to act in a just way, to vote for justice every single day is unlike any honor we have, that makes up for some of the tough sacrifices you make as an elected official. But I will say this, as I finish my time here, you kind of think about, when a child is born, you name them after a grandparent, the way that some people see history as linear and others people see it as circular. I see it kind of like a Funyun, right, that just keeps going over and over, where it's both circular and it moves forward. And this moment of Sheila passing the baton to Lindsay Horvath and the work as I finish up knowing that you will be here makes me know that LA is in such beautiful hands. There's a poem by Marge Piercy called Stone, Paper, Knife that says, who else but you can breathe hope? You, my other flesh, that awaits for springtime like the melting along Glacier Line. This is the spring that's coming, and her name is Lindsay Horvath. Yes, she is. Yes, she can. Yes, she has been. And yes, she will. Your next supervisor, Lindsay Horvath.
Please rise for the presentation of colors and remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance.
In case you didn't already know, Lindsay Horvath's a badass. If you would, place your right hands over your heart and recite our pledge with me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. You may be seated. Well, don't sit yet because the flags have to go.
Please be seated and give a warm welcome to singer and actor Eric Benet.
Lift every voice and sing till earth and heaven ring with the harmonies of liberty. Let our rejoicing rise high as the listening skies. Let it resound loud as the rolling sea. Sing a song full of the faith that the dark past has taught us. Sing a song full of the hope that the present has taught us. Facing the rising sun of our new day begun. Let us march on till victory is won.
From Supervisor-elect Horvath's Parish, Blessed Sacrament, Hollywood, please welcome to the stage Father T.J. Tanner.
Just a few weeks ago, Lindsay was walking into our church community, and really quickly she said, JT, can you do the invocation prayer when I get sworn in? And I said, sure. And then she walked in, and I looked over at someone and said, that's a big deal, right? And they said, yes. And now I really feel that. I can feel my heart pounding. So it's an honor and a blessing to be here, Lindsay. Thank you. Throughout all of Jesus' life, he always took the opportunity to sit down with people and share a meal, no matter who they were, where they were from, or what they looked like. Jesus always had time and love to give them. And he did more than just share food. He shared in their joys and their celebrations, but also in their pains, their disappointments, and their broken hearts. So in that same spirit, let us bow our heads and let us pray together. Good and gracious God, we thank you for sharing this day with us as we ask for your blessing upon Lindsay. May she follow the example of Jesus as she serves the people of Los Angeles as county supervisor. May she always seek to share in the life of your people here, in the things that lift them up, in the things that give them hope, but also in those things that cause them suffering and in all that breaks their hearts. May every decision and action of hers begin with the desire to share your goodness, O God, and share in the lives of others. And we ask all of this through Christ our Lord. Amen. Thank you.
And now, please welcome the Honorable Zev Yaroslavsky.
Thank you. First of all, I want to thank Lindsay for inviting me. I'm honored to be here to help be a part of this celebration. It was 28 years ago this week, in fact, I think it was this day, that I was sworn in here for the first time. It was 8 years ago that I was asked by Supervisor Sheila Kuehl to say a few words. And it's just a function of how young I was when I first got started, because there aren't a whole lot of supervisors, former supervisors, who are still alive. First, I want to thank Sheila Kuehl for not just her 8 years as a member of the Board of Supervisors, but her quarter of a century as a public servant in the state of California. I now teach history at UCLA, so you're going to get a little bit of a history lesson. Lindsay is only the 6th person to be sworn in as a member of the Board of Supervisors since 1924. 34, almost 90 years. There have only been 5 supervisors who preceded her. One of them was John Anson Ford, who served in the 3rd Supervisorial District. And I want to just tell you a quick anecdote, be very quick. When Queen Elizabeth and Prince Philip came here in 1983, my friend Queen Elizabeth came here in 1983, on an official visit, there was a big reception up at the Music Center for her and Prince Philip. And we noticed out of the corner of our eye that nobody was talking to Prince Philip. He was alone. So I took a couple of my colleagues and we went over to talk to him. And we introduced ourselves, councilman this and councilman that. He says, I've met the supervisors, though I don't know what they supervise. He says, I've met the mayor and I know who he is. So now I meet you councilors and I don't understand your system of government. So we gave him a 2-minute tutorial about the local government structure in Southern California. There's a board of supervisors. There are 88 cities. Each of them have a city council and some of them have mayors. There's a transit authority. There's the air quality management district. There are several dozen school districts, water districts, and of course the all-important vector control district. At which point the Duke of Edinburgh peered over his glasses and he said, I think I now know the genius of your system. I said, really, what is it? He says, it's designed not to govern. So, Lindsay, your job, as it was Sheila's, as it was mine, as it was John Anson Ford's, and Ed Edelman's, your job is going to be to navigate this thicket of balkanized governance in the Southern California area. And I think Sheila can tell you, and I'll tell you, that you can make it work. It's made to be designed not to govern, but it's not designed to make you fail in trying. And it's a challenge, and I know you're up to it, and I know that you'll grow into the job in a way that all of us do, because there is no job like this in the country. John Anson Ford actually, in describing the Board of Supervisors, called it a puzzling anomaly that defied easy explanation. That's the understatement. The last thing I want to say is what I said at Sheila's swearing in, and at my own swearing in. And it's a quote from British historian Lord Thomas Macaulay, a 19th century British historian, whose words guided me from the time I read them through the end of my public service career. And it went like this, goes like this. No man, 19th century, no man is fit to govern great societies who hesitates about disobliging the few who have access to him for the sake of the many he will never see. Lindsay, that's the hardest part about this job, and the most rewarding part is to find the people that nobody else sees. You will see them, you have seen them, and in so doing, you will do the greatest service to our county, to our state, and to our democracy. Congratulations to you.
Please welcome Los Angeles City Council member-elect, Eunices Hernandez.
Thank you so much. Hello, everyone. Good morning. How y'all doing today? Yes. Oh, I miss being in this room, but on this side, that side's really hard. Recognizing that I probably only got 1 or 2 minutes because, they like to time us and keep us tight. I'll keep it tight. But I definitely do miss this space. I miss working with the various departments. I miss working with the Board of Supervisors, but I also look forward to building bridges because the city has been really good at saying, that's not our job, that's the county's job. But the only way that we're going to get out of these crises are to work together. And so I look deeply forward to working with you all. And what an honor it is to be here, to be able to speak a little bit about Lindsay in her swearing-in ceremony, Supervisor Lindsay Horvath. I'm honored to join you all. I'm grateful for this opportunity. And Supervisor Horvath and I met years ago to talk about reimagining public safety. What does that look like? Yes. A lot of us have a certain idea of what that is, but our conversation was, how do we meet those who are most vulnerable with care first? How do we meet people who are having mental health crises with psychiatric mobile response teams or alternate types of crisis response teams? Those are the conversations that we got to know each other over. And when she started exploring and running for office, I was like, yes, please, we need you, because we have come so far with this work. Supervisor Sheila Kuehl has been one of the strongest champions on the board around moving alternatives to incarceration forward. But now Lindsay's coming in and she's gonna elevate it, take it to the next level. And so I'm deeply grateful to the Board of Supervisors who have championed this, but also to you all, to the departments that have actually done the work to implement these diversion programs, to build out the alternate types of crisis response. Thank you. And I hope that you all, can build bridges with Lindsay too, because that's one of my favorite things about her, is that regardless of what your background is, regardless of what you do, she finds a way to connect because she understands that it's bigger than us. It's about the millions of people that are in this county and the hundreds of thousands that are in particularly my district that need the most support. And so the county, when we think about alternatives to incarceration, it is one of the biggest policy movements that the county has ever undertaken. And y'all should be very proud of that because not many other jurisdictions are exploring these types of models in the way that we are. And that's one thing I was hoping really Lindsay could take on and really move forward is to how do we get to a point where we can close down Men's Central Jail? Yes. And both jails are in my district, Twin Towers and Men's Central Jail. So please lean on me for whatever y'all need to make that happen. Because we're gonna make it happen. We stopped the $3.5 billion jail plan, right? We created a whole new ATI department, you all did. And so I have a lot of hope for the future and what we can accomplish. The LA Times said that with Lindsay and with this race, you have a choice. Do you want to go backwards to build bigger jails and failed policies? Or do you want to move forward to a vision where we don't leave people behind, where we put people over politics and profit? And the people made their choice. SD3 made their choice. They want to move forward. And so please join me in giving a big round of applause to Supervisor Lindsay Horvath. Thank you.
Please welcome the Honorable Sheila Kuehl.
Thank you so much. I've been kind of developing a theme about what to say for my two good friends sworn in today. And I made a stab at it early on. I think I'm getting to the nub of it. And that is, when you are an elected, it's not the first thing that you've been. And there are kind of different phases that people go through before they even decide that they're going to jump into the electoral arena in any way. And the first phase is one that you don't necessarily know what you're aiming at. You get engaged. You become who you are. Lindsay was born on the day that the Equal Rights Amendment died. And she is the revenge for that. That's the second great line I've stolen from Tori Osborne, so I just want to give screen credit because Tori and I have known Lindsay for quite a long time. The other thing is when you begin to think of running for office, you have to kind of think about who you are because you need to present it to people and say who you are. One of the stories we didn't hear a lot on the campaign trail was a story about Lindsay as a student at Notre Dame. Notre Dame. And, Lindsay, a woman of faith, deeply faithful, and the school itself, kind of a school of faith. But Lindsay decided she would bring a program to Notre Dame. So she brought the vagina monologues there. So it tells you something about a person who, even in the midst of understanding the seriousness of a situation and of a place, knows when it needs to change, when it needs to express a wider point of view. You can see it even in the flags on the stage that Lindsay chose. And before she even decided to run for office, Lindsay Horvath was a woman who knew how to reach out, knew how to feel deeply about others who were different from her, could feel the connection, as was talked about before, could feel the barriers that others faced even if she didn't, and they would understand the barriers that she faced. Those kinds of connections are exactly what you need if you think you're going to run for office and represent a whole lot of people. Because no matter what you're elected to do, you will be representing a vast variety of people. Even within the city of West Hollywood, which you all probably think you know, there's an amazing variety of people. And so when you decide to run, it's not so easy because people want to know not only who you are, but what are your values? And you have to come face to face with your own values, with your own prejudices. Lindsay was good from the beginning. A heart, brains, and courage. Now, you know I'm a Wizard of Oz fan, and that's really the way I express my admiration for a person. They've got the heart, they've got the brains, and they've got the courage. And that is our Lindsay Horvath. She showed it from the beginning on the council in West Hollywood, as mayor of West Hollywood, as the president of the Contract Cities Association, because the contract cities in California, surprise, are very different from each other. And so it's kind of like, well, you may understand your city, but what about my city? And Lindsay was great. They loved her. I've heard from other contract cities, they're nodding in the front row, some of them, that really respected the way she would listen, the way she would understand. And in her role in West Hollywood, the way she would move from an idea to an action. It's not like there's no homelessness in West Hollywood. They had to deal with it in a way that we in the legislature never did. I loved the legislature. You'd make a law and you'd walk away. And you'd say, I certainly hope they're going to do something about this. And incidentally, we won't fund it either. A lot of nodding from cities out here, I can see. But Lindsay really made it work, brought her own experience and most importantly, her heart and her common sense to the problem of homelessness in West Hollywood, to the problem of the vast variety of incomes in West Hollywood, to what it meant to be an impoverished person in a community that everybody thinks is rich. And it is not an easy thing. And so in articulating her values and then in living her values as an elected, she really proved herself so capable for this new place. We have a little Tinkers to Evans to Chance going on here with Zev and me and now Lindsay. And both of us, I know, are very pleased, but more than pleased, confident, happy optimistic for the future to hand off this incredibly important job to Lindsay Horvath, because I know she knows how to do it, she will do it, and the county will be far better in 12 years because Lindsay Horvath has been here. Thank you. Lindsay.
To administer the oath of office, please welcome the former mayor of West Hollywood, the Honorable Abby Land. The Bible, belonging to the supervisor-elect's grandfather, Robert Wintersteller, will be held by the Executive Director of Planned Parenthood Advocacy Project Los Angeles County, Celinda Vasquez.
Thank you. I am so incredibly honored and proud to be here. So I'm going to administer the oath of office, and I just have to say, for one moment of personal privilege, I have had the pleasure of having Lindsay as a coworker. She was my colleague. She was my council member. She was my mayor. She has been and will always be my friend, thick and thin, but I cannot tell you how thrilled I am and how honored and proud I am to be able to be here. So I am going to get to call her my supervisor. So with that, if you raise your right hand, please. Can you come a little closer? I, Lindsay P. Horvath,
I, Lindsay P. Horvath,
during such times
as
I hold the office of Supervisor of the 3rd District
Supervisor of the 3rd District
of the County of Los Angeles,
do solemnly swear
that I will support and defend
the
Constitution of the United States
the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of California
and the Constitution of the State of California
against all enemies,
foreign and domestic,
that I will bear true faith and allegiance
to
the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of California,
that I take this obligation freely without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion, and that I will well and faithfully discharge the duties upon which I am about to enter. Congratulations, Supervisor Lindsay Horvath.
Please give a round of applause for Los Angeles County Supervisor Lindsay P. Horvath.
So we put this together since November 23rd, and I am incredibly grateful for everyone who made this day possible. Just looking out at all of you and being in this space is incredibly special. I am so, so grateful and really thrilled and excited, but thank you to everyone who made this all possible. And most importantly, I want to start out by thanking the one and only Sheila Kuehl. Please rise and give her a round of applause. When Los Angeles County first came to be, before it had any city councils or mayors, before its first freeway or train track, it had a county board of supervisors. When those first 5 men assumed office, our state had only 2 years in the union, and our county had 15 cows for every person. Those men could not have imagined back then the county we would become. An economy larger than Sweden's, 10 million residents and 200 languages, with a board of 5 badass women now sitting in these chairs. Nevertheless, they took those first steps into the unknown and began one of the longest running representative bodies in California history. Our County Board of Supervisors established LA's first hospital and courthouse. It holds a roughly $40 billion budget and immense sway over our region's health, justice, and future. My friends and fellow Angelenos, it is with great honor and humility that I accept this call to serve as supervisor for LA County's 3rd District. Los Angeles today stands on the precipice. In the past 5 years, we've suffered a once-in-a-lifetime pandemic, witnessed growing inequality and homelessness, and been called to action by the largest racial justice movement in a generation. We know this is a moment of profound change. We can sense it. We can feel it. The question isn't whether what change is coming, it's whether we will embrace it. We are not just 5 districts or 88 cities. We are one Los Angeles County with one shared future. We must meet this moment with courage and a willingness to hear new voices and welcome new ideas. I know that this moment is far bigger than me. It was only made possible by the trailblazers who came before. 31 years ago, Gloria Molina walked across this room and stood at this podium and made history. She had become the first woman and first Latina elected to our county's Board of Supervisors. Yes, round of applause. She was soon followed by the first elected Black woman, Yvonne Brathwaite Burke, and the first, yes, and the first elected lesbian, Sheila Kuehl. She helped deliver a wave of change that brought champions like Hilda Solis, Catherine Barger, Janice Hahn, and Holly Mitchell. Shortly after she broke that glass ceiling, she said, as I believe now, we've got to open things up. We are still opening things up for women and for all people who have been ignored or marginalized. In a post-Roe era, we must be open to all who seek reproductive freedom and invest in our safety and care. I am grateful for the leadership of Planned Parenthood Los Angeles and all who fight for reproductive justice and access in this incredibly challenging time. Together, we will make Los Angeles County a refuge for women and for all who seek safe access to reproductive health care, which must be a right for all, not a privilege for few. Most importantly, we must open things up for the next generation. We must believe that we have a future worth fighting for and a place to thrive in LA County. As someone born and raised just outside of Cleveland, Ohio, I never dreamed that one day I would run for public office. I had no idea that I could become a councilwoman, a mayor, or a county supervisor. It was here in Los Angeles County that I found my voice and a community that taught me to aim higher, to dream bigger, and do more to serve others. There will be those who doubt us and who question whether a millennial is ready to serve her county. But the median age in Los Angeles County is 38. Millennials in Los Angeles are more likely to carry student debt. We are more likely to leave LA County to buy a home, and we're more likely to struggle to keep up with rent. We and the generations that follow will be the ones to suffer from inaction on climate change. Our generation asks for no special favor or treatment. We only ask for a government ready to hear our voices and respond to our needs. I think West Hollywood's in the house. We know damn well that the world we're inheriting won't exist if we continue on the same path we're on. We've been told our whole lives to work harder, do better, and a brighter future will be waiting for us. But in reality, we've inherited a rapidly declining climate, a widening wealth gap, and the same failed policies hoping for a different result. We are done with being told to work a little harder to reach the top of an uneven playing field. We cannot beat a broken system, but we can change the rules of the game. And if our world will not make room for justice, equity, and a sustainable future, then we will build it ourselves. We must demand change, even when it's hard, and especially when it's uncomfortable, because no change worth pursuing has ever come easy. There was another supervisor many years ago who faced similar doubts. He was young, he had new ideas, and he wanted to bring diverse voices into county government. Kenneth Hahn was only 32 when he was elected, and went on to become a champion for racial equity, economic justice, and a more inclusive government when it was deeply unpopular. Many people at the time thought he was too idealistic, naive, even radical. Today, this hall bears his name. Not every leader looks the part, and experience does not only come from elected office. This county is filled with people from all over the world, bound by a shared hope that here they will build a brighter future. I was one of those people, and I came to West Hollywood, a city built by Jewish Russian-speaking immigrants and older adults and low-income renters looking for stability, and an LGBTQ community who simply wanted to feel safe being exactly who they are. Together, this coalition of the marginalized built one of the greatest experiments in progressive government, and today it is renowned for its prosperity and inclusion. West Hollywood taught me to try big things, invest in our social fabric, and believe that there is more that we have in common than what divides us. I hold all my experiences as a mayor, a business owner, and a renter still paying off her student loan debt as assets to my leadership. In a county where over 60% of households rent their home, we need people at the table of power who know firsthand our housing and affordability crisis. LA County's 3rd District stretches from the valley to the sea. Over the last 18 months, I have met people of all ages and from all walks of life. Some had just come to LA hoping to start a new chapter. Others had spent their whole lives here, raising their families. And some were growing up, attending our public schools, playing in county parks, and looking forward to their future in Los Angeles. We all want safe and welcoming communities. We all deserve a roof over our head and support for our neighborhoods. And if this election has taught me anything, it's that we still believe in the promise of Los Angeles. We still believe that a county this large and this powerful can take care of all its people. And we still believe that where others say it's impossible, Los Angeles says, watch us. We know that we can do better, and the people of Los Angeles County deserve nothing less. I am honored to be with you in this work, and I would not be here today without the support and encouragement of my family, my friends, my colleagues, and my allies. Thank you for believing in me and for believing in this moment. This seat does not belong to me. It belongs to all of you. It belongs to the people of the 3rd District and the people willing to fight for our future. I am humbled and honored to march forward with you, to take those bold steps into the unknown. As the board's 166th member and 8th woman, I join you in writing the next great chapter for Los Angeles County. Thank you very much.
To deliver the benediction, please welcome Rabbi Emerita of Temple Emmanuel of Beverly Hills, Rabbi Laura Geller.
We come to this moment with gratitude that gifted and talented people like our new supervisor, Lindsay Horvath, have chosen to dedicate their lives to public service. We all know that this is a challenging, even a dark time for our democracy. And it would be easy to stay in a dark place. But so many of our religious traditions, especially at this season, remind us that it is up to us to light a candle to help us see through the darkness. Hanukkah, Christmas, Kwanzaa, Diwali, other holy seasons as well. Teach us to be the ones who bring the light. As Amanda Gorman said so powerfully, there is always light, if only we're brave enough to see it, if only we're brave enough to be it. As a rabbi, I am particularly called to Hanukkah, the Jewish festival of light. The story connected to Hanukkah is that when the Maccabees had liberated the ancient holy temple, there was only enough sacred oil to burn for one day, not enough to last until new oil could be found. The tradition tells us that a miracle occurred, and this small cruse of oil was enough to burn for 8 days. And that's why Hanukkah is an 8-day holiday. But wait, there was enough oil for the first day, so really it should be a 7-day holiday. Why 8 days? There's obviously another miracle that must have included that first day. What was the miracle? Not that the oil burned for an additional 7 days, but rather that those ancestors lit the first wick at all, without being certain that the light would last long enough to complete the dedication. The miracle was that they took the chance, a risk, a leap of faith. They took that first step, even though they weren't certain that they had enough resources to succeed. We are so very thankful that leaders like our new supervisor, while aware of the challenges to Los Angeles County, have the courage and the confidence to light that first wick. And we are grateful that she is not alone. We are her partners in envisioning a community illuminated by light. We can be brave enough to see it, and together, brave enough to be it. And so we say together, Amen.
Thank you for attending the swearing-in of Los Angeles County Supervisor Lindsay Horvath. Please join us for a reception across the street at the Music Center.
After all you put me through, you think I despise you. But in the end, I want to thank you, because you made me that much stronger.